Hi there, John. It is not just international criticism from the West about Russia's conduct of its war in Ukraine. I think we also need to look at what some call Russia's backyard, the former Soviet republics that many of whom have mutual defense treaties with Russia, are supposed to be very close security allies of Russia, and yet are staying completely silent and distant from its war effort against Ukraine. On his 70th birthday, Russian President Vladimir Putin met with the leaders of other former Soviet republics, and he called for the resolution of conflicts that erupt in the region. Of course, Putin is directly responsible for launching the biggest war in recent history in this part of the world. Russia's invasion of Ukraine was aimed at reasserting Moscow's control over part of the former Soviet Union. Instead, this increasingly disastrous war has weakened Russia's influence across the region, including here in Central Asia.
Unless something changes dramatically and Russia rebounds, we will see Russia's role certainly diminishing in Central Asia for sure.
Kadir Toktagulov is a former ambassador to Washington from Kyrgyzstan, a small former Soviet republic with close economic and security ties to Moscow.
To see this kind of attack by Russia against Ukraine was certainly disorienting, because it sort of showed the terrible things that Russia is capable of.
Of the leaders of the former Soviet republics, only Alexander Lukashenko of Belarus has publicly supported Russia's war in Ukraine. Russia conducts joint military exercises with its other four mutual defense treaty allies. But when it comes to the Ukraine war, they have all stayed publicly neutral, and that includes Kazakhstan. In January, the authorities here used deadly force to crush a violent uprising that left dozens dead. Moscow answered an urgent call for help from the Kazakh government, leading a deployment of troops here on a brief peacekeeping mission. You can still see burn marks on some buildings after the violence last January. Russia came to the Kazakh government's help in its time of need, but the Kazakh president has made it clear he will not be getting involved in Moscow's war in Ukraine. As Russia's military faces more and more setbacks in Ukraine, tensions have exploded in other areas long seen as Russia's backyard. Deadly fighting raged across the border between Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan in September. Meanwhile, hundreds died in separate cross-border clashes last month between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Moscow refused a call for military assistance from its treaty ally Armenia. And now the Armenian government is working with the European Union to negotiate a settlement. Moscow is on the back foot due to its destructive war of choice, and that's leaving a growing power vacuum across the former Soviet Union. Now, John, Kyrgyzstan was supposed to be hosting joint exercises from this collective security treaty organization as we speak this week. The exercises were called Indestructible Brotherhood. But that brotherhood seems to be failing. Kyrgyzstan canceled those exercises at the last minute in protest for this violence across the border that erupted in September. So if you look at the 6 countries that are members of this, relations are not going well, and the mutual assistance treaties don't seem to be being used in effect right now. This is on top of the just sheer discomfort at seeing Russia justify its war in Ukraine, with Moscow arguing that it was coming to the defense of Russian speakers, ethnic Russians in Ukraine. Well, there are large ethnic Russian populations in Kazakhstan and in Kyrgyzstan, so that kind of justification is perceived very much as a threat to these other former Soviet republics that are very much seen as being in Russia's backyard. A final element here is that none of these countries want to face the sanctions that Russia is currently facing from the West. So that is another reason why they keep their neutrality in this ongoing disastrous war that's being conducted by Russia in Ukraine. John.
Well, indestructible brotherhood only lasts for so long, I guess. Ivan Watson, lifeless in Hong Kong. Thanks for the report.